G'day everyone, it's me, the Anti-Theocrat, back with another one. Before I go into the main content, it's a quick sales pitch. It's the only one you're getting, so enjoy it. Below these videos I do attach all links to the information if there are links to be had. I also archive all of the information if that's possible. I also supply links to other platforms for my content and how to support me if you wish to do so. That'd be nice, but no requirement. That's it. That's my intro. That's my sales pitch. It's all I've got. It's all you're ever going to get. And now, on with the show. Feminism is a net negative for everyone. That's the topic. That's where I'm going. I'm going to just talk in layman's terms about a whole range of things that feminism is a net negative for society. There are very few positives that come out of feminism. The early women's movement did fight for things that were worth fighting for, and I have no problem with those fights, but unfortunately those fights also missed out a lot of things that they should have picked up on, or at least the people making the actual changes, the governments and so forth, should have picked up on, that have impacted our society negatively, and feminism has continued to screech that and make it worse since the inception of the term and the movement. So I wanted to start off by looking at a thing called wage stagnation. There are a lot of different ways to look at this. This is one of the probably better ones though, and this is based on the US, but it falls in line pretty much with most of the first world. Between the early 1960s and the beginning of the 1980s, you can see there was a significant rise in wages, and they were at a fairly good level, coming up from the pre-60s, the post-war period essentially. So after that, in the early 80s through to the 90s, we have this major dip. Now, the growth since has been a relatively stable line. There's a lot of things showing this stable increase in charts and things. You can see it all over the place. The problem is a GDP has not followed this same path. The GDPs of all our nations have continued at a continually upward trend, and wages have dipped and dived all over the place. And what it leads up to is over time, right? Not in any these charts, some of them look 2010 to 2017. It's a fairly limited period of time. This one here at least goes the 60s to the 2010s. And you can see that if you averaged it out and sort of rounded off those peaks and valleys, you would end up with what it has been over here, a decrease in wages. For, as this says, production, our real hourly earnings for a production and non-supervisory employees. So what we're talking about is general employees, the low to middle class employee ranges. And we've had a dive in our wages. In this early part here, this was when my parents were paying for a house. In this middle part here is where I should have been paying for a house. And I'm at the end here, having not bought a house. Because this, amongst other things, has had a crushing blow on the way that people in my age group have been able to succeed in the world or get by in the world. I have been poor enough to have to beg for food. I've taken food parcels from charities. It's only now that I'm starting to get on my feet. And even then, we are at a similar economic level, even though one of my partners is 3 grade levels above where my father was in terms of his career, and she's managerial. He was nothing like it. Dad actually stayed in the position he was in because he didn't think it was worth the the money that he was offered to go to the next level wasn't worth the responsibility that had to be taken, and that he could work shift work to earn the extra money without going up to the next level. So my wife, who is managerial, at the top level of her managerial position, has about the same spending power as my father, who was 3 levels below. Now, a lot of this, if you look at this time period, this is peak feminism. This is when women start to demand to be entered into the workforce. This here is about when I was at school and girls were being told they could do anything. They could do anything. When I started school, we still had home economics classes, and yeah, we were taught to sew and cook and so forth. Now, originally those classes would have been aimed at girls going into the home to be mothers, but when I went, we all got to do them. And even so, I don't think those classes exist anymore. I don't know if there's a home economics class being taught anywhere in Australia, teaching you the basics of home care. Now, and even if they are, it's probably not the same course that it was, which was preparing people to be in the home. So girls were told to be whatever they wanted to be. And this is where those girls enter the workforce. This is a recession or something. So, but this is where they enter the workforce, and this is that decline. As the workforce doubles, as our governments start to measure our economies through our spare cash and work out that we have plenty, and so they don't need to increase our wages anymore. In Australia, we have a wage commission. Other countries have wage commissions, and they're meant to look at our wages and decide whether we need more money. Our unions are meant to do the same, but unfortunately, while the wage commissions are looking at our extra money and saying we don't need any more, and the businesses are saying, well, we need more money, so we don't want to pay more, the unions are saying, but 2 wages should be 2 wages, not 1 wage. We've all got enough money that we don't want to fight for extra money. We don't see the need for this fight. This kills off the single income family over time, because once we reach this point, it takes 2 or 1.5 to 2 wages to raise a family, to purchase a house. Now, I, for a long time, have been part of a single income family, and while my family has 2 incomes now, that hasn't always been the norm, and it means that we effectively chose to be the people who raised our children rather than let strangers raise our children. Strangers who do not have the same ability or concern or care for our children that we have. They don't have the same disciplinary measures at hand. And in fact, the fact that they don't have the same disciplinary measures at hand has bounced back on we parents. Because if we now smack a child in a supermarket for throwing tantrums on the floor, we can be arrested for it. So this giving our children to strangers has destroyed our ability to be good parents for our children. I smack. I do, and I don't give a fuck who thinks that's wrong. Because children need to be given hard lines as to what's good and bad. And I hate to say it, I hate to be the person who says especially boys about anything, because I think we need to be reminding girls there are lines like that too. But girls don't need the same level of pressure. Girls are joiners. They want to be accepted. They want to be part of the group. And you can convince girls a different way to how you convince boys. Boys convince one another that they're not doing what is socially acceptable by fighting with one another. And as a parent, you need that ability to shock. Not to bruise or break or maim, but to shock. To remind that child that you are bigger than they are, you can be meaner than they are, and that you, if pushed, can be the person who draws the line on when they're going bad. You don't need to use it all the time. In fact, the less you use it, the better it works. I know this. I got it used on me a lot. My mother broke a wooden spoon on my ass and I laughed at her. Dad got the job of beating me after that. And seriously, you get to the point where you're no longer concerned because it's no longer a threat, it's just life. So a threat works better when you don't use it. It's like a nuclear deterrent. It only works when you don't use it. The minute you use it, it becomes full-scale warfare on a nuclear scale. It has to be something you do not use. It has to be something that they know you can use, which is why having used it once in our human history means nobody ever wants to use it again. But, yeah, that ability to parent, that ability to choose what is right and wrong with our parenting, with our children, has essentially been taken away from us, in part because the single income family is dead, is because the only way family economies work is if two parents work, and we've killed our ability to parent by giving that job to other people who do not have the same ability to do it as we do. And plenty of legal guidelines in place to make sure they don't, because I don't want them necessarily doing that, but I don't want them taking that away from me either. Going back a couple of steps, we go back to the fact that a single income family is no longer something that can work. So what we've got is a world where women who want to be supported, they want a man to go to work. And as an at-home father of 23 years, I can tell you now, women want you to work. Strangers, women and feminists will walk up to me when they find out that I don't have a job, that I'm an at-home father, and tell me I should be at work. They used to. They don't do as much anymore, but I'm also not as sociable as I used to be because I get sick of this shit. But they have been known to walk up to me and tell me that my duty to my family is to go to work and earn an income to support them. So when you have marriages break down, as they do, increasingly, you end up with single parents, mainly women, complaining they don't have all the money in the world. You have men who have not been told they can do anything they want with their lives, having it reinforced in their adulthood, even though they're no longer getting the relationship benefits, they're not getting the sex benefits, they're not even getting to see their kids quite often. These people are still being forced to go into that workforce and do what they were told was their duty from word dot. While women enter the workforce being told that they can do anything they want, and by feminists often being told that to achieve high in life is to do what a man does. A man is the measure of success, not a woman, not a woman's life, not being a mother, not being a carer or looking after households. No. The measure of success is what a man does, and for a woman to succeed, she needs to do what a man does. So, the workforce. Then in their 40s, they complain they can't find men that meet their needs, which is often a man who can support them to a higher level than they can support themselves. And I know I'm going off track here. I know I've left something behind. But this is the way it's working. Feminism has killed relationships. It has killed the single income family. It has killed a woman's right to choose not to go into the workforce. Because now, not going into the workforce means not having enough money. It has killed off choices for women, not offered choices to men, because if men were allowed to stay home when women went to work, we might not have had this. the 50% of the population, the available working population, who were at work might have gone, well, if you're going to work, then I'll raise the kids. But these options were never put on the table. Feminism looked at women and said, you are repressed. And I can tell you now, as an at-home father, I do not feel repressed. In fact, I guarantee this is the life you want. Unlike a lot of the women that I have met, the mothers I've met, I don't go to the coffee shop and sit around and natter about bullshit. I don't go to the daycares and talk about how my tits hurt or whatever in the fuck else I've heard in the way of women's conversations, when they just sit around watching their kids play, or not watching their kids play, as is often the case. And after they've gone to the coffee shop and play group, they go around to one of the girls' places and they all sit around and have another coffee and a natter there. Being an at-home father, I'm not welcome in those places quite to that degree. I started a business, bringing in pocket money for my family. Now, I didn't really make you couldn't call what I made a living, but it paid for family holidays. It actually, a travelling business, so my family actually travelled with me, got to do things that many families have never gotten to do unless they were circus-raised families or something. We got to go places and do things with the money that I earned. That's what we got to do. Now, and we had to, the only way we could do that, being a single income family, was through my having a business. But I didn't sit on my ass. Even now, when I have two partners raking in income, they're both, one has risen to the top of her profession, the other one's on the way up. We now have a comfortable income that we've never had before. We're no longer requiring to beg for food or anything. I don't keep a pocket full of change in case one day we can't afford bread and milk. Because that's things I used to do. When we were having good times, any shrapnel that came into my pocket got put in a piggy bank, and when we hit the hard times, that piggy bank came out to pay for bread and milk. And then we'd have good times, we'd have a bit of work, we'd make some money, and I'd put change in the tin again, and sure enough, we'd empty it again. I've been there. We're no longer there. We're now comfortable. We're not wealthy. I wouldn't even call us upper middle class. I might call us lower to middle class. But in that position, I can now think of saving money. I now no longer have to work my business the way I used to. And I still don't sit on my ass. I'm decking out a bus as a motorhome. I've just set up a forge to do some forging of some steel that I need for it. I'm putting my hands to any number of things. I have volunteered through my life for about 20 community organisations. I ran our local cinema here at a loss of my family's meagre income when we didn't have that extra money. Basically, I sunk us into a debt we couldn't afford for my community. But I did that rather than sit on my ass, drink coffee and talking about tits. And again, I'm off the track, but the point is that feminism has taken away that ability to choose to sit around and drink coffee and talk about your tits from a lot of women who can't afford to be at-home parents. That ability has been removed. Okay. I just wanted to cover that. I just wanted to talk about that because it's not just the social issues that this creates for men. There's a legal gap for men in what the world that feminism has created, with things like the tender years doctrine giving parenting rights to women on a totally unfounded basis, just on the writings of an insane woman who found herself separated from her children. And I'm guessing her husband wasn't the nicest guy in the world, or she was an absolute bitch. And given that she wrote the Tender Years Doctrine and pushed it into politics, probably the second one of those. Then you have the Duluth model, and these make men the enemy. These are feminist doctrines that make men the enemy and do not improve relationships. These women who want to be supported in their households, I was talking about this earlier, but women want to be supported. They want to stay home and raise the kids, and then they get bored, and then they have their eat, pray, love moment where, I had to play that movie in the cinema and it gave me the shits. That woman's so fucking self-serving and everyone's meant to love her. Everyone took that movie to be an exploration of a woman, finding herself. But first she fucked off her husband and kids. He didn't get to fuck off. He got dumped with all the shit and was paying for her fucking trip until she managed to create her own earnings and wealth. So, no. You don't get to pull that one as fucking growth thing. That's shitting on people. That's shitting on people for your own narcissistic reasons. Anyway, you find these women, they hit that eat, pray, love moment where they decide they're bored sitting at home with the kids. I've never been bored sitting at home with my kids because, as I said, I did things. But these women, they get bored. They can't talk about their tits anymore because they're sagging around their knees and they've no longer got anything they want to tell people about their tits. Before they just hurt a bit because they were a bit inflated from having another fucking sproglet. And now they don't have that discussion. They don't want to... No, they've done the dinners. The kids are at school now. They just sit around home on their own, twiddling their thumbs. They get bored and they fuck over their families. I was going to say they walk out, but in most cases, they make him walk out. In most cases, they drive their husband away. I don't care how vague or what have you think I'm being with this. I just don't. The majority of divorces have been shown in the US, and again, like with the wages thing, it is comparable with other first world nations. Divorces are being shown more and more to be women who are just bored. They are being driven by women who are bored. Men don't get to be bored. She fucks off because she's bored with him. She wants to find something else to do. She fucks off, she takes the kids, and he has to pay for her lifestyle. Because he's never given that choice. Feminism put that thought out there, that you have to be what a man is to succeed. And so women get bored being women. Because being a woman's no longer good enough. Sorry, look, I'm an at-home father. I think this is a fucking dream life. Feminists are full of shit. Don't let you lead them down that path. Really. Someone else pays for me to have a shed which has grown over the years, which I can do jobs that I couldn't have done 20 years ago because I just have this nice workshop now that I never had before. I have increased my skills and my confidence around things that even with my trade skills, I wasn't that confident about. I now go out and pick up a welder, build a forge, whatever, and I just do it. I look at things and I see things and I think I can do that, and I just fucking do. Now, there's nothing stopping women from doing the same. Maybe not in my shed, maybe not in a shed, but do you not have any hobbies, any pastimes, any loves or wishes? Or, I started a business. I started a business doing something I enjoyed doing. And even though I only worked for about 3 months of the year out on the road, and mainly weekends, I could work from home doing a couple of hours on the weekends for the rest of the year. You can't do that. You can't find something to do with your life. You have to have someone else provide it. Or you have to be aiming for what they have. Because some stupid bitch told you that men have it better. I spent years in the workforce before I met my wife and we had our child. And what I do now, in fact, I've had jobs since then, because whenever our family have needed it, I've stepped up and joined the workforce and done my bit. But what I do now is 50 billion times better than anything I did in the workforce. Learning my trade skills was nice, but having the freedom to use them the way I want makes them better. Seriously, go and do a TAFE course. Learn how to read palms. I don't give a fucking flying shit what you do, but grow the fuck up. Respect your family. Try and bring us back to some place where one person earning an income is enough. Be prepared to step up and be the person earning the income and supporting the other person. Stop expecting that even when you go to work, he has to keep going to work, because otherwise he's a deadbeat. I'm not a fucking deadbeat. I've done shitloads of stuff. I ran a radio station. I ran it as a technician, manager. I did 4 different shows on air. I volunteered for community groups. I took my business on the road. I haven't been fucking lazy. I'm not deadbeat just because I stay at home. The same as I don't think at-home mothers, even though I know a shitload of them sit around drinking coffee and twiddling their thumbs. I do not think they are deadbeats. Raising children is. It can be a task, a testing thing. It can test you a lot. Your ability to sit around and twiddle your thumbs and drink coffee is a fucking test. I'm not good at it. That's why I do other things. Why I make videos. Why don't you make videos? Get yourself an education, learn something, think of something, use your brain a bit. This is all just off the top of my fucking head, this ramble. Because I know some things, I put some things together. There's no real way to structure this coming out of my mouth in a way that I can just say, this is a timeline. Which is why it's such a fucking ramble and why I'm doing it this way in the first place. These graphs and things I went fucking looking for, that was me trying to structure this video. And it just does not structure well. There's no way to explain all the economic depths that have got us to a place where someone at my age is still trying to save the deposit to buy a fucking house, which I will never pay out in my lifetime. My children will sell whatever property I end up with and take whatever's left after the mortgage is paid out. If they're lucky. If they're lucky to find something left over. But I'm never going to see a house paid off in my lifetime. The chances of my living that long, another 25 fucking years, at my age, with my family's background of health conditions, I know I'm dropping dead before then. It's only the women in my mother's family who live to 104, which is the current age of my grandmother. It's not something that we just do. So, even if I start buying, I'm never going to see that out, as my parents did. Shit, my parents are on their 3rd home, I think, now. Selling the first one, moving on, buying another one, moving on, buying another one. I'm not even on my fucking first. And this is in a large part due to feminism. Now, there is one last note one last point to put forward here. Was this deliberate? Was this deliberate? Did somebody know 100 years ago that this is what this would lead to? Because 100 years ago, feminism became a communist movement. Feminism was supported financially by the new Russian communist governments, in the UK at least. So did they know that this would break down the family, that this would break down the single income support? Did they know? We now have a raft of communist movements on our table. Antifa was established by the Soviets in Germany before World War II as an anti-fascist movement. It is a communist movement. Its roots are in communism. Its beliefs are in communism. BLM feeds straight out of that. And the people who are in charge of it, the people behind it, have openly admitted to being trained communist activists. Did these people know? Did the people behind the feminist movement know that it would be a successful way to divide and conquer? It might be something worth thinking about. Just putting that out there. Just put all of this out there. I've got another video to get out. I'm leaving this one. And that's it. I've had enough. I'm going. I do not want to do this anymore. I've had enough of this. I'm out of here. I've been the anti-theocrat. May your gods remain fictional. And I will see you in the next one. Until then, have fun.